Addy soldiers. If you are part of the book community in any capacity, you will be familiar with the frenzied freakout that Twitter was having when Stephenie Meyer decided to revamp her career. Oh! Bam! Vampire pun, not even 15 seconds into the video. That's right, the long-awaited Midnight Sun is going to be a actual book that you can go and buy in the store with your money dollars to get a physical copy of Edward's perspective of the cult classic Twilight. In case for some reason you don't know, even though I'm not sure there's anybody that doesn't know, that doesn't love Twilight, Stephenie Meyer wrote a version of Twilight except from Edward's point of view, then a couple chapters got released without her permission, and she just decided to never release it. But after a flopped adult title and that really weird life and death gender swapped Twilight that did okay, I guess, I don't know if her bank account's running low or if she just like some kind of contract was up or whatever, or if she just decided to screw it, I'm gonna do it anyway. She is now going to finally actually write and release Midnight Sun. The internet full of millennials that are now in their 20s are flipping their shit. I was one of those people who was in the age bracket when Twilight was becoming a thing, and I did actually read the leaked Midnight Sun on her website way back when. And there is a small part of me that is like, oh my god, vampire nostalgia is so exciting to be able to be an adult and like finally have that thing that you wanted so badly as a teen, which I'm pretty sure her publishing company is counting on for all of those sales. Honestly, like what teenager nowadays is like, oh my god, Twilight's my favorite? Like no, it's all of the 20-somethings and 30-somethings who have money, and that's probably why she's releasing it. Anyway, not a conspiracy theory video, but that still stands. So while that small preteen Rachel, who still exists deep within me, is excited for this release, there are things from her and from other authors that I would rather have instead. So without further ado, here is a slightly snobby and very entitled list of books that I would rather have than Midnight Sun. Number 1, straight off the bat, is a sequel to The Host. I quite liked The Host. I know it has its own host of issues. God, I hate myself. But like, girl, what was that ending? Huh? What were you going for? You obviously didn't know. The first big alien sci-fi for teens that had a really good kind of deep dive look into like humanity and morality and like future technology and love and the way that we look at other people who are other. And I just felt like it had so much potential, but then you ended it really weird and like, what's going on with it? Did you maybe at one point we're gonna get a sequel? We don't know. Like, I would rather have that than the same book again for the 3rd time, except from a different point of view, because like, we all know that Edward is a whiny bitch who has privacy and personal space issues. I don't really want to read about him anymore. The second book that I would rather have than Midnight Sun is literally any other vampire novel. Give me vampires. I'm so ready to resurrect this old genre from the dead, and I want a good vampire novel so badly, and Edward is not the one. I was so disappointed in, I don't know if you can see it over there, The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh, because I was promised vampires. And I got like 0.01% vampire in that book. I'm very put out. And of course, whenever you search up YA vampire book, oh my god, they're so boring. And everyone's already read them. We've already read Bloodlines. We've already read Vampire Academy. And all the adult vampire novels that I've read are always like, I'm a sexy 300-year-old vampire lady with extreme cleavage, and my only purpose in this novel is just to make the main character want to screw something that isn't human. Like, if you go on Tumblr, there are so many good ideas for vampire novels. Hell, science has come to the point where we are discovering things in the ocean that we never knew existed. Give me science vampires from, like, this surprise virus that's been going through the world. Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black made vampirism a disease, like something that you can catch and spread. Like, I love that idea. Give me some plague vampires. Give me some scuba vampires. Give me some history teacher vampires. If I heard about a vampire novel where the main character had gotten turned into a vampire when they were like 17, and the main character was like, how long have you been 17? And they're like, oh man, it's only been like 3 months, it's super trippy. Maybe they meet a 17-year-old vampire who's actually like 300 years old, and then they're like, oh, this sucks, I can never go into a bar in my entire eternity. The next thing that I would like more than another Stephenie Meyer book out in circulation is an actual new adult book that is labeled and shelved as a new adult book. I read an article the other day that was like, new adult isn't ever going to be a thing. Like, Stop trying to make new adult happen. And I'm really sad about that because I feel like new adult as a genre has so much potential to be a really good and intricate and intense and emotion-filled genre of books. New adult is the kind of unofficial term for books that are not YA but not quite adult, so usually you have protagonists that are in that 18 to 25-ish. And as someone in that age bracket, I do like reading protagonists that are that age because it tends to have characters going through the same things that I'm going through, but then like sex and death and violence and morality and like all the stuff you can't really get into in a young adult book. But books that I have read that fall in this category, I find are so much more intense and thought-provoking, and I would rather read that than a standard fiction book where the characters are like in their 30s and 40s. And obviously that makes sense because maybe at that age I will, but right now I don't, and I'm not at that age, and I want something that's my own age that is not hard to find. The next point ties in very nicely with my lip color and this cover, and that is that instead of this story, I would like to have this cover on an actual Hades and Persephone retelling. I love the modern take on the myth of Hades and Persephone where they are kind of either co-conspirators or it's like a Beauty and the Beast type retelling. Basically any version where Persephone has a little bit more personal autonomy. But this story has everything that I love. It has forbidden romance, it has death, it has the underworld, it has like souls and creepy weird magic with like the pomegranate seeds, it has ghosts and gods and black magic and cool creatures and a dog. But I know that outside of the franchise that Rick Riordan has created, and like, God's bless you, sir, Greek mythology retellings don't sell very well in a traditional publishing world, but I want them, and I know that there was a small resurgence in like the early 2000s. Obviously didn't do very well, so there's not any more coming out because it's, I guess, such a classic overdone one. But I'm still waiting for that real cool, real gritty, weird, dark one. So if anybody has any recommendations, please leave those down below. Next up, I would love to have a book that has a character with a chronic condition that is not clumsiness. I remember reading these when I was about 14, 15, and thinking that clumsiness was so cute and boys would like me, and I remember trying to be clumsy. When you look back at that book, that's basically Bella's only trait. Like, she's loyal to a fault, she loves her dad, and she's clumsy. But it only sort of comes into play sometimes. It's just kind of like there, like it doesn't help her or hinder her very much. It's just like a fun little quirk that she has. And I would much rather read a character with a chronic condition. Maybe they're in chronic pain. Maybe they have a injury of some kind. Maybe they have a genetic disorder. I don't know. It would be really nice to read a character that's not able-bodied, and I know that's very misrepresented in YA, and if it is, the whole character arc is usually that they miraculously get better. There's a severe lack of disability in YA, though I do think that that will continue to change and grow in the coming years. Next up, on things I would rather have than Edward Whiting for 300 pages, is a love triangle or relationship where the main character does not end up with the first person she ever dates. I want a male or female lead to find someone they find attractive, maybe flirt a little, share some kisses, and then be like, you know what, man? It's not working out, not for me. Peace. Like, break up for realsies, not this like weird 6 months of depression in the middle of New Moon. I almost forgot what the second book was called. And then that weird will they won't they in the third book where one of your potential suitors is like violent towards you and the other one is also violent towards you. Like 9 times out of 10, you are not going to stay with the first person you ever have a relationship with for the rest of your life. Like, thank God I'm not dating my first boyfriend still. People change and grow throughout their entire lives, and sometimes that means doing that with a person, and sometimes that means outgrowing someone. Not always in a bad way, but sometimes it's just that your lives come together momentarily and then drift apart again. That was something I really enjoyed about the Shatter Me series, where the main character, okay, spoilers for a series that's like 7 years old and one of the most popular series on YouTube, is that Juliet doesn't end up with... what's the boy she first ends up with? I don't know, he's boring anyway. She doesn't end up with the first boy she ever sees who she has a crush on. She ends up with somebody else. I find that was really like refreshing and realistic. Also, I'm like, Bella, you've lived in like multiple cities. Why are you staying here if you don't like your options? Just go somewhere else. It's this whole like life or death, haha, third time, struggle of like, what side is she gonna choose? Oh my god. And I'm like, if you don't like the odds, change the game. Six of Crows reference. There's number 4. Like, just decide not to date either of them. Honestly, they both seem to be inviting a lot of drama into your life. And lastly, the final thing that I would rather read than yet another version of a vampire romance novel in teen format from the early 2000s is I would love to see something that I can summarize in 3 words. Healthy teenage relationships. It sort of is like the last point, but it's a little different, okay? Yes, I get YA is fantasy. Why do you think I read it? Even a contemporary novel is technically fantasy because it's a story. It's whatever you're telling, whether it has aliens or like fun art teachers or a portal to a different realm. It's all a fiction. Love stories, love plot lines are in a lot, if not the majority of YA books, and I'm not complaining about that. I really love a love plot line, and it does go hand in hand that a high-stakes, intense, fast-paced fantasy novel is going to have a high-stakes, fast-paced, intense romance story, because you can't really be like, hey, I kind of like you. Do you want to, like, go out for coffee sometime? And while the other character is like, I'm in the middle of a battle with the Dark One, can this wait like 10 minutes? Of course, people are going to be drawn together for a number of different reasons, for a number of different environmental and internal factors, I get it. But the majority of relationships in YA books are unrealistic to a fault. There seems to be a weird power dynamic where usually it's the man saving the girl and then she falls in love with him, which, like, I mean, I'm assuming that if someone saved me from a demon with a magic sword, I probably would fall in love with them too, however briefly. This goes back to the point of, like, having 2 abusive people in a love triangle, where I'm like, I don't think normal people would go and, like, have that happen. Like, if someone was mean to me, I'd be like, cool, man, I'm not gonna date you. Or if someone was like, I am a paranormal creature and you're my mate that I have traveled through space and time and waited millions of years just for you, I'd be like, okay, does that pickup line work on all the girls that you use it with on Tinder? Like, what's your point? Not all relationships move as fast as they do in YA books, and I've certainly been in a couple of fast-moving relationships, but I just feel like you're not setting yourself up as a teen reading these for, like, good relationships in your future, and it would be nice to have a realistic one where, like, a couple actually communicates, or puts their feelings on the line, or someone gets rejected. Just, you know, gotta switch things up. I'm getting so worked up. It's just so hot in this room. It's like the worst part of the beginning of summer, where it's so hot outside that you want to come inside, but then it's hot inside too. I'm Canadian. I don't deal well with this. And yes, this very extra feathery fan is the only fan that I have currently, so I feel very elegant, like an Edwardian lady. But I also feel a little bit like a burlesque dancer, but which is not necessarily a bad thing. Please leave down below your own thoughts on Midnight Sun. Are you excited? Do you want to return to that world? Are you like me that are like, could do without it, whatever, or are you like really against it? This isn't meant to hate on Stephanie Meyer, like it is kind of cool that she's releasing it, but a part of me is sort of like, why is it taken so long and why is it happening now? And I'm just kind of like, I would rather move on with my life and read something different. I say as I have literally every single Cassandra Clare book that she's ever written in the Shadowhunter world. She's written other things, so is Stephanie Meyer, I know, but like she's different. I like Clary a lot more than I ever liked Bella. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!